11. Friends don't lie.
Stop it! You're freaking her out!
She's freaking me out! The upside down.
Do you understand what he's talking about?
No. I found the chocolate pudding!
Oh God, please tell me it's not the kid.
I need you to hide!
Mornings are for coffee and contemplation.
Holy shit.
Welcome to the very first episode of Streaming Things.
Streaming.
The unofficial podcast of Stranger Things. The unofficial podcast. Just want to stress the indefinite article there for totally subliminal reasons, isolating us as the number one. My name is Chris.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Steve.
Steve. You don't have to do the slash. We'll just throw it in from here on out, and they can refer back to episode tilde.
The upside down version of me is Stu.
Right. Yeah. There you go. Spoiler alert. So speaking of spoiler alert, we've talked at great length for about 20 seconds about whether or not we are going to do spoilers for the remainder of the episodes throughout this show. We are making the assumption that most of you listening to this have already seen season 1. It has been almost a year, or
like this time last year.
Maybe verifiably a year. I'm not sure. Didn't do the research. So, but whenever you assume something bad happens, you make an ass out of people.
You and Steve.
You and Steve.
Hi, I'm Steve.
So we will try to avoid major spoilers in our in-depth review whenever possible. But please be wary if you are listening for the very first time. Damn it, watching the show for the very first time. You're definitely listening to this for the very first time. Just be wary. There may be some minor spoilers afoot. But
or major spoilers if we're going to talk about the entire season.
Yeah.
But me. So,
did you just have a stroke? What was that?
Yes, I'm fine now, though. So the whole point of the show, if you're wondering at this point, is to rewatch season 1 together as a team across the world, and then again together watch season 2 when it debuts on October 27th. So we're just going to have some good fun. We're going to go over our favorite moments from the show, hunt some Easter eggs, and obviously do overall plot recaps and whatnot. So we'll just jump right in. Episode 1, The Vanishing of Will Byers, which Netflix describes. On his way home from a friend's house, young Will sees something terrifying. Nearby, a sinister secret lurks in the depths of a government lab.
And what a government lab it is.
Very mysterious.
Oh, shit.
Very 80s lab.
It looks like just the most nonchalant business park that would look so at home in Hawkins, Indiana.
Hawkins, Indiana. Oh, and we should say we have some level of expertise here on this podcast. We are Midwesterners, I think you would describe us. We live in the northern Kentucky region, not far from Cincinnati.
About a mile out from the fictional town of Hawkins.
I don't know where. I was going to Google it. Is it even real?
No.
It's not real? For
not
sure?
Real. Yeah.
Okay, I knew that. I Googled that. No, I just knew that because we're near Indiana. So anywho, we have that going for us.
Man, that's like finding out that Santa's not real.
All right.
Yeah, it's worse. I don't know, actually, if it's worse. But, so, jumping right into the plot recap, Netflix did a great job. I don't know if we can do better than that. From the get-go, so 80s. So 80s. I was the 80s dad.
Yeah.
Mike's dad, Ted.
Jesus,
is one of the best parts of the show for me. He's got the 80s glasses, which was like how the author photo on the back of a Stephen King novel looked to me for a long time when I was a tiny kid. I should say I was born in 1988. Right. So I was like right on the cusp of this. So, right when I achieved real consciousness, somewhere around 4 or 5, it was almost all 80s stuff. And he looked exactly like that with those glasses. And he's such an 80s dad, like the depiction of dads in movies where he just so non-committal and distracted.
Right. Language.
Yeah. I care.
That's pretty much every dad growing up when I was a kid. Like every young boy that I hung out with, their dad would always just be like, language, just always in the back, not doing anything, not involved, just could not care less that they have kids.
A narrator dad, you know? No running with scissors, but I can't really see you because I'm reading a newspaper, which they're a thing. Okay, so overall notes from the show. I saw you guys scribbling away. What struck you plot wise, or anything really at all overall for the episode?
I loved how the beginning D&D game with the kids. characterizes them and establishes like the group dynamic immediately. Like Lucas is really aggressive when the Demogorgon pops up in their game. He's like, fireball him, and Dustin is really pragmatic. He's like, cast a protection spell,
almost cowardly,
right?
And would come to find out.
Yeah, and like even later in the episode when they go out to look for Will, like Lucas is again really aggressive. He's like, quit being such a sissy, and Dustin's like, we didn't come out here with any weapons or any supplies. Did it occur to you that Will disappeared and we're walking around where he disappeared? So I thought it was really neat that opening scene playing D&D established that. And then Will is like in between. He's just sort of going along with the group. Like, should I do this or do that? You know, in between or upside down, if you will.
Right. Oh, wow. Wasn't prepared for that.
And then Mike is just, you know, the leader. He's the game master or whatever they're called. D&D.
And then
Dungeon Master.
Very meta. They reference that very game as characterization too. When Mike, you know, walkie-talkies them and brings it up that Will had sacrificed himself in the game so that he would do that for them. So they need to, you know, try to help him. It's kind of like reminds me of Reservoir Dogs with the restaurant scene at the beginning where they have the argument over tipping, and it kind of illustrates their various personalities and character arcs in that one conversation that will all come out to play later.
And they're talking about Like a Virgin by Madonna.
Yes, which is also an 80s. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Back to 92. What struck you overall? Some things to jump into there, Steve.
Having seen the show a year ago, and this is my
Is this your first rewatch?
My first rewatch, yes.
Okay, me as well.
So it's really kind of interesting to see where, you know, some things you didn't pick up on and like how that is driving the story. For instance, I wrote down the introduction to Officer Harper. Is that his name? Hopper. Just the way they kind of established that shot of, I assume, his daughter's drawing of the family pull out. He's by himself. There's beer everywhere. He goes outside and smokes with his pants mostly undone, smoking a cigarette in the cold air. It really does so much to set up not only that character as a guy who's broken in his own way because of this family that he's lost that you haven't, you don't know quite yet, but it also establishes the setting, because that's very Midwestern to kind of go outside and it's still cold out, and then they go into the police station and the most inept cops who are just hanging out, nothing to do. This is a small town, no crime ever happens here. It does so much to set up that character and the setting, and I'm a big fan of how they pulled that off.
Yeah, everything was so subtly done with the character work, and rewatching it this time, I was very impressed, knowing what comes later with all of the tiny detailed work that the Duffer Brothers put into everything. And like I took so many notes, I couldn't possibly have time to bring them all up about stuff like that. I like Steve, for instance, kind of an interesting. Not
Thanks,
this Steve,
man.
Steve in the show.
Oh,
yeah. I read something interesting. I hope it's interesting. I think it is. That Steve's character was originally written to be much more of a douche than he actually is in the current incarnation of the show we have now. In fact, I believe he was meant to be like a rapist and stuff for some of the other characters. That I'm trying not to spoil here, so that's why I'm stumbling. But and when he did his line reads, he was so charming just inherently that they kind of changed his character arc and the overall feel that they wanted to get from him. Yeah. And you know, knowing what I know now about what they've done with the character, I just thought that was really interesting.
I'm a fan of that. I think because I remember when I was first watching the show, watching the progression of Steve, and we'll get into that later on in other episodes, but I was so worried that he was going to fall into this archetype of like, oh, he's another Biff. He's going to try to, you know, like you said, be the rapist guy that everyone stops, or he's going to be the asshole. But
which they totally could have done.
Yeah, and he still is kind of a dick.
Yeah. And that's what's great. They kind of saved the cat there to reference Blake Snyder. And who else did they kind of did that with Jonathan's character as well. So Will's brother, I just thought I wrote genius in parentheses because I'm just a parenthetical fiend. But Jonathan has reason to blame himself for the disappearance of Will Byers because he was supposed to be home, right? So it sets up his character to be overly upset. I don't know if you can gauge how upset he should be. I don't want to say that, but he's grieving, but he's also blaming himself, which one tends to do when grieving, but he has like a legitimate reason.
Which is insane, though, because his reason was that he was at work.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Mom.
What's genius about it is it's like a save the cat in itself.
Right.
Because it's kind of his fault. I don't know how much he could have done to fight the Demogorgon had he been there. But
right.
It's kind of his fault, but at the same time, it's super not, because he's trying to help support his single mom by picking up an extra shift at work and assuming his 12 to 14-year-old brother would be fine, which by all rights in Hawkins, Indiana, he should be. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's just this genius plot device. I feel like that, like he's beating himself up, but he's actually like it's his fault because he's such a good dude, you know, just so incredible.
How great is Winona Ryder as the mom, by the way?
Oh, incredible.
She's so perfectly cast, just because I imagine that's just what Winona Ryder's like in real life. Like, about her coffee. Like, where's my coffee? I need to find it. What the fuck? Where is it? Harper, get my coffee.
Just chain smoking. Like, I bought Folgers. I know I did. I was on the fence because I know that her portrayal was very divisive when the show first debuted.
That's true.
There was either people saying that it was just a powerhouse of acting, or like, what the hell is she doing? It's way too... And I was kind of almost more in that camp. Like, I admired what she was doing, but she was just so hysterical. And it almost annoyed me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which sounds awful, because, of course, she's lost one of her children. She would be that way. But watching it the first time, I was almost struck, like, I think I'm annoyed. Like, you need to... Somebody give that lady a Xanax.
Right.
But watching it this time, I really admire it, actually.
Yeah, I've heard the arguments both ways. I definitely fall in the camp of she did fantastic. Like, because when I think about, like, if I went missing as a kid, that's how my mom would be. She'd be hysterical. She'd be waiting in the office of the police department, like, you know, my mom doesn't smoke, but picture her chain smoking. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, she's
awesome
she's the one that'd be like, what about the other time? You said 99 out of 100.
Sure.
What about the one? You know? And so, like, that to me, she is nailing what the kind of bewilderment and grief that a single mother would have when the kid goes missing. Like, what do I do? Who do I turn to? And I think she nailed it.
There's that scene in it's like a flashback scene where they're in the Byer castle.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that.
And she's like, yo, my little witch. And she's like poking him with her finger. That's a total mom move.
Oh, yeah.
And I get flashbacks of my own mom doing her own version of that. And she nails that role as a single mom. And that's why I love her in that role. She's great.
And I loved that scene, and because we don't get to see Joyce Byers without her son being missing for the length of the show up until that point. So we're just like, we have no idea. There's no reference point. So it was such a genius move, writing wise, to have that flashback to show her what she's like when he's safe and everything's going relatively well in her life.
She buys poltergeist tickets.
You still see under
She's
the
a cool mom.
Yeah, I mean, but you see under the skin the hysteria, the lack of stability, because she is a single mom who's divorced and, you know, probably struggling with some things. But what she's like when she's happy and okay, to juxtapose with the hysteria of Will being missing.
Right.
And without that flashback as that device, because we don't need to see what that we could have easily told that he lived in that little, you know what I mean, fort. Like, that was all obvious. They didn't need to show, like, he sometimes sits in here and reads comic books. Like, duh. But what we got to see was Joyce being kind of relatively normal. So I thought that was cool.
Would you call that your chocolate pudding?
It's not one of my chocolate puddings. Don't spill the load easy or early. Do it easy. You don't want to do it hard. I don't know. So we're trying to go with the whole 80s theme. So we all did a bunch of blow. So I'm just a little erratic here. I don't know how you found it. Way to go, Stu. So, yeah. I love how the horror came from the jump. That's what I wrote down. Horror from jump. And literally there was a great 80s jump scare right at the beginning there. And they do such a good job. It's like horror 101. They did blow the load on showing the monster early, but not really, because you have no idea what the fuck it is. It doesn't chalk with any of the rest of what they have going on. And I was just really impressed from a horror standpoint, because they almost have this like John Hughes meets Stephen King vibe. Which is brilliant that they pulled it off. Like, I'm just amazed watching it the second time. Like, it's charming. It's funny. There's this like 80s high school romance that I'm totally buying into. But at the same time, there's this insidious horror element that's striking a chord throughout the entire narrative. I'm just like, how do they get these things to not cancel each other out?
Yeah.
But it totally works. It's kind of like the first 20 minutes of an 80s horror film mixed in with the last 20 minutes, and like everybody's totally cool with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, tonally it jumps all over the place, but does it so well. And there's a lot of comedy to it too, you know what I mean? Like it is very much like a John Hughes, like 16 Candles, like, you know, just kids being kids in the 80s, which is like its own genre now. I love it.
Absolutely.
And that scene is so important because it instantly makes the kids relatable, because everyone has that memory of hanging out with their friends in their basement, getting in each other's face about the rules and like, roll it, you know, and then mom breaking it up and then riding home. Everyone knows that, so you instantly connect with those characters, even though they're on screen for, 5 minutes?
Yeah, probably not even that.
Especially Will, because Will has the least amount of screen time of any of those 3 or 4 boys.
Right.
And so it's very important to kind of get the audience to like really care
Oh,
who
yeah.
Will is.
And they nail it with the whole it was a 7. Like he rolls it and like he misses
So he's
the table
honest.
and all the kids freak out.
Right.
Yeah, and like
He's
it was a 7. The
self-sacrificing.
Demogorgon got me. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, they
Because
set
you're not
him
going
up
to care
as-
if he's a little fucking liar.
Yeah.
And you're like, you know what? Eat him. He lied, you know?
Right.
Can we just talk about how amazing that D&D match was? Because I've played D&D, and it's normally in my 20s, and it's not like that. Like that
Let's
was
get into it. What was your character?
I don't remember. It was so bad. That was intense. And the dungeon master was just killing it. He was you can't figure it out. He's coming. You know what I mean? I'm getting it. Like,
He slammed the pieces on the board like, they're here.
Oh, and then they're so into it. Like, do you hear that? Coming around the corner.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Boom.
That would be the best dungeon ever. I don't know if it was actually like that in the 80s in particular, or if we just really suck at D&D, but that has not been my experience of the game. So I just wanted to...
I've never had the pleasure of playing D&D. It's one of my bucket list things to do in my life.
It's interesting. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
I mean, Mike said he spent 2 weeks prepping that game.
It really helps if you're 12 and you have nothing else to do but masturbate and plan the D&D. So that
Sometimes
helps.
at the same time.
One leads to the other. I can't remember because it's been so long since I've seen the show if the fireball is an allusion to anything that happens later. I just want to throw that out there as kind of a cheating prediction thing because I have seen it, but it's been so long I legitimately don't know if that's smart. But the way that, because they relate the Demogorgon, which is their invented monster, to the actual monster of the show, which was brilliant in the way that they cut that with the editing.
Yeah.
Because right after the D&D match, cut to the Demogorgon.
Right,
You know what I mean?
Sorta. In the
Well, we don't want to spoil it.
Oh, yeah,
We
that's
can just
true.
say sorta.
yeah, sorta.
Okay, cool. I'll take a sorta. That's the best I get in life sometimes. So we talked about 80s dad Ted. There's a lot of 80s stuff. I just want to go through quick through some generic 80s stuff, not some Easter eggs. 80s smoking.
It's all over the place.
Everywhere.
Just inside, back in the good old days when you could just light up in any indoor setting. There's ashtrays everywhere. Just, we know, we have a good idea that we're probably killing many of you, but we don't yet care. 80s style. The 80s villain. He just had the 80s hair, 80s villainous look on his face.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Steve?
Dr. Brenner.
Dr.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Old Doc. Not you, Steve.
Modine?
Yeah.
80s big sister crush.
Yeah.
Which I think has been, it was a 90s thing in a different way, but they're just that, you know what I mean? Big sis, all your other friends are like, what's up? You know, like that.
I do have to say, I think that scene was adorable, but also kind of a mistake, at least from my perspective, because it's adorable because you instantly like Dustin.
Yeah.
Because that kid's just, I want him to be my kid. But when I first watched this series, that scene made me hate Nancy for way too long. Just that one scene. I'm like,
'Cause she was rude to him.
She's a butthead. Well, how could you be mean to Dustin? He's adorable. He was giving you pizza, girl.
I don't know. I like Dustin. He's obviously really funny. And it's way less so this time, but I remember calling Andy, like, that Dustin kid creeps me out, man. I think it's the teeth. I don't mean to be a dick. And I remember us doing research on whether or not he really had those teeth missing at that age.
Cranial dysplasia.
Yeah. Like, did they cast it? Is that a
They knock
prosthetic?
his teeth out. Method actor.
Yeah.
It just kind of creeped me out. I don't know. I'm a really mean person, I guess.
I love that after that scene, like he's like, we got an extra slice if you want it, and the sausage and pepperoni. She slams the door in his face. Next scene, he's walking outside eating the pizza. Like there's something wrong with your sister.
Yeah, this pizza's dope. She's missing out. Yeah. The Demogorgon got me is the line that I wanted. The editing was great because the Demogorgon does proceed to get him.
Yeah.
Right. Got him.
It did get him.
30 years later will be a great joke that they won't know about. Got him.
I hope that's what the Demogorgon said to himself. Got him.
Yeah.
Your friendly neighborhood Demogorgon.
Got him. I also noticed the relationship between Joyce and Hopper when she's left in his office, that they do a great job of very minimal exposition. She calls him Hop, which is obviously a very personal. So you get that whole small town feel. You're immediately able to absorb that these people know each other very well. They run into each other a lot.
I got the impression that they went to high school together, probably, because he mentioned that, like, I was on the debate team, but actually I was making out with other girl, and she clearly knew who that was.
Which kind of confused me because the teacher, when they were doing the search party, said this something similar. Like he knew the science teacher that Hopper had, and she's still alive. They made that joke. Whereas my interpretation of the character of Hopper had always been big city cop moved to a small town.
Yeah.
Is that not also true?
That's not how I ever took him. You know,
Really?
I just assumed that he was the small town guy also who...
But how's he so badass and jaded and they're all
I know.
cleavery?
I was thinking that too, rewatching this first episode. Like, his instincts are on point.
No, he's
like,
a great detective, and I really get that, like, big city cop, small town, which is its own genre. I couldn't think of really any good examples of that, but I know it's pervasive.
It's almost like he was always almost destined to be the big city cop and move out because of his, wife. Doesn't his wife leave
But then
him?
he also said, my daughter lives in the city.
It's
like he was from a city, like Indianapolis, I guess, which isn't a big city either, which is what's funny.
Well, I took that as maybe like he was almost destined to get there at that point, and he started off being a police officer in Hawkins. But then whatever happened with he and his wife. His wife goes to the big city, and that almost makes him jaded against that and just becomes complacent. And, I'm here.
But then he says the line, too, I will counter you two, because it seems to be 2 on 1 here. He also says to Joyce when they're in the room, in the 4 years that I've been here, the worst that's happened is the owl attacked old bitch's head.
That's true.
And so now he could be alluding to the 4 years that he's been working, but he's pretty old to only have his career for 4 years, A.
Right.
And B, he wouldn't say it that way if he grew up there his whole life. He'd say since I've been born.
Yeah.
So he's from elsewhere.
Sure.
Anywho, I just thought that line was great. Anything else? 80s teacher. It was very 80s view of how school is and kind of how school was in the 80s and early 90s that I recall. But just so like, there's a test tomorrow. Like very Bueller, like.
That teacher makes me uncomfortable because I watch that guy and all I can think of, that's me in like 15 years.
I'm going to be super stoked about the radio.
Dude, I can't wait till that sweater vest comes in.
I felt so stupid because when the kids are trying the radio, he goes, think bigger. And they're like, California. And in my head, I'm like, he's talking about space, dumbasses. I felt so stupid. And they're like, Australia. And I'm like, no, bigger. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, too big. I was too big on that one. There's nobody in space to talk to. So, oops. No, so that was kind of funny. When 11 first eats the French fries, I don't know why I wrote that down other than, can you imagine...
She goes to town on those things.
Trying French fries for the first time at that age. Just like, and then ice cream. I get the impression she's never had ice cream before either.
Yeah, probably.
Like this is simultaneously the scariest, most adrenaline fueled moment, but also the best and most sublime of her life. Think about that.
The risk and rewards.
Yeah. Like I could die at any moment, but fuck. And you ever dip French fries in ice cream like at Wendy's with the Frosty?
God, yeah.
Dude, that's what she did accidentally first go around because she's a genius. You know what I'm saying?
There's a reason I knew why I loved her.
Think about it. And then she goes, well, we don't want to spoiler alert her favorite snack for later, but she's got a talent for analyzing tastes. We can say that.
Poor Benny, though.
Oh,
Yeah.
poor Benny.
Poor Benny.
He looked very familiar, and I meant to IMDb before we started recording because remember our shtick for the show is we watched each episode right before we record. But he looked very familiar, like kind of like Hopper, like where I know it.
Yeah.
If nothing else, he looks like the DEA agent from Breaking Bad a little bit, like he might be his cousin. Like it's the jawline and the bald head, I think.
All right.
They did a great job of selling you on that character. I mean, like the grizzled, tough guy, but also the heart of gold. Yeah. Heart of gold. Have you ever heard that expression before? That's weird.
No.
How did you know I was going there? I thought I made that up.
I thought I was making it up. I think we just shared a moment.
We are genius. One thing I thought was weird, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and then I loved it, and then I didn't, and then I loved it again, was the dynamic between Hopper and Joyce when he first comes to the house to search. Because she's very defensive, which makes sense. Like while you're in the house, you should be out looking for him.
Sure.
But also, it doesn't track with the paranoia that she's been having, that they've established for her character up to that point. Because she's very dismissive of every clue that he's now on her side. He's looking vigorously for her son. And she's kind of like almost suspicious, like acting suspicious. Like if I was a cop and this wasn't a show, I'd be like, where'd you hide the body? You know what I mean? Like that's how she's acting. Like, I don't know if that mark's been there. Why are you in my house? You know,
She's hiding a big old bag of weed.
and yeah, it acts to highlight how smart he is and what a good detective he is. But I just didn't know how I felt about her being so dismissive of what he's clearly seeing as clues to her son. He's found the bike, and I don't know. Did you guys notice anything about that moment, or am I crazy? Or
I don't know. I thought it was interesting, the whole dog barking, and he comes out like, "Hey, what's up with this guy?"
I know, and she's like, he's probably just hungry.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
She, I don't know. I mean, I can see her just like the
Feeling like he's wasting time.
Yeah, the nest half empty. Like he's not here. He's out there somewhere. Go find him.
Yeah,
you
fuck
know
the
what
dog.
I mean?
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Do you wonder if that dog was out there like all night and all day barking at the shed, and they're just like, "Shut up, we're looking for Will."
I know, and he's just in the shed. Also, I wanted to say, and I love the show. I just explained it away by this is not the first time she's gone there. But it bothered me a little bit that she would go to the police station before checking his badass fort.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to check the fort before alerting the police because if he's probably in there a lot. Now, I just, like I said, maybe that's the second or third time she's checking the fort because, you know what I mean, to see if he's returned or something. But I thought that was a little rough.
Well, they kind of establish him as a do-gooder kid, and he's supposed to be going to school. You know what I mean?
That's
he's
true.
not the type that would skip school and go
So
jerk
then
off
she's
at his fort.
exhausting more avenues after
Right.
jerk off his fort.
And filming wise, it plays better in the edit for her to go to the police station and then have that flashback, and then she's there again with Jonathan. Is that the other brother's name?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Jonathan, played by, let me show off my research here, Charlie Heaton. So that's Jonathan Byers. You don't have to Google that because it's here on a streaming thing. Streaming thing. Speaking of sound design, phenomenal in the show.
Oh, it's insane.
Like, holy shit.
It's so good.
Like, the cinematography was blowing me away, which I don't remember being that blown away by, but holy shit. But the sound design...
Did you guys pick up on that their little headlights that their bikes have like a very distinct, almost a lightsabery type noise when they turn on?
Yeah.
It's not like a normal like blink. It's like brown.
No.
It's very cool. It's almost like the
That
light is
seems like
good.
that seems like a very... What was that again?
The light is good.
Yeah, it actually says that when they turn them on. That's crazy. I did not hear that. So a very 80s illusion there probably too. My favorite, what's your favorite? Real quick, didn't tell you to look for this, so I'm going to put you out there, guys. What was your favorite shot?
My favorite shot was right after the teacher is talking to Hopper while they're walking through the woods, and he says, "What's your daughter's name? Maybe I'll get her." And he says, "Nah, she moved to the city. Thanks for coming out, Teach." And he walks away alone in the forest. It's like this...
As he walks through the trees in the mid. Damn it, that was mine. Son of a bitch. You looked at my
really
notes.
good shot.
He looked at my notes. She died, quotation, flutter in trees, which flutter's an inappropriate word, but I knew what it meant.
Flutter.
He didn't flutter.
Just the sheriff like,
He turns into a butterfly.
yeah.
What was your favorite shot, Stu?
Mine's at the very end when the three boys are in the woods and they're whipping around real quick to kind of they hear a noise and then they see 11 and there's that shot where it's they're flashing the headlight almost directly at the camera. And
Or
the three of them-
lightsaber.
Yeah.
The light is good on 11. Right?
Yeah. I really like that shot, the three of them together with the light almost obscuring their faces, except for
Oh, so
Mike's.
not of her, but the mid-close
Not
of the
her.
boys.
Yes, of the three boys.
They all have like their hoods up and it's raining
raining.
and shit. Yeah, it's a really
That's
good,
good.
shot too.
Anything else to talk about overall before we get to the chocolate puddings?
Yeah. So how awkward was that makeout scene with Steve and Nancy?
Which one? There was two, I believe.
The study one, when he like kind of lays her down on the bed, but she's like stiff as a board, and I thought that was good because it's like, yeah, high school awkward makeouts.
That, and it also alludes to the original draft of the script, I feel like, where he was rapey.
Right.
So he's pushy horny, like 80s style, but not full villain pushy horny.
Yeah.
Just like unfortunate.
What are the levels of villain pushy horny?
I think it's unfortunate patriarchy pushy horny that he's at now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we can attribute it to 80s patriarchy status. Now, there'd be a huge consensual conversation, which would be very necessary and applauded. But back then, you know, she just had to keep her wiles about her, which is why she's studying so hard. Yeah.
I agree.
But I definitely bought that as well, or noticed that. Anything, Andy? You got anything overall?
Yeah. No,
Actually, Stu invented a segment while watching. Let's do that real quick.
Yeah, so I was talking to someone a couple months ago about this show, and they said one of the things that they hated about it was after a while. Do you guys ever watch Lost?
I didn't.
There's a season in Lost where the boy named Walt goes missing, and the father just yells Walt nonstop, and they thought that the same thing happened in Stranger Things with Will, where people just shout Will constantly, and it bothered him. So out of my own curiosity, I decided while doing this rewatch that I would do a Will call.
Will call.
Will call.
This show is so clever. And I don't mean Stranger Things.
Anytime someone shouts Will, like they're looking for him, Will, or where's Will?
We do a line of blow.
Yeah. We do a lot. No, I just take a tally. And do you want to know what episode 1's tally of Will shouts were?
Lay it on me.
It was 23.
23 Will shouts.
23.
Wills.
Sidebar, I didn't count the, when you know how they have the volunteers shouting, when they're not the focus and there's like dialogue of, you know, the chief.
So you didn't count background wills?
I didn't count background wills.
See, I feel
counted,
like...
I counted if they were clear and present, and that was
Okay.
like the only thing you heard. I did.
What about casual references, like in the beginning when they're actually just talking about Will?
They're the IMDb uncredited Will callers.
Right. Just
That was me in the background.
It was just some, yeah.
No, and you know, let me know if you guys think I should change the rules. But I thought I would only go for the ones where it's someone just shouting his name, questioningly searching for him.
Okay.
And not just like, hey, have you guys seen Will?
That's annoying. God, there's that fucking name again. Casually spouting it out. Okay, that makes sense. It's only the very immediate, very adrenaline-fueled will calls.
Yes.
Okay, so look for that throughout the season. We're going to keep a tally of the will call. We're going to leave Steve in charge of that. Good job there, Steve.
So much pressure.
Good job, Steve. Don't let it crumble. So if you don't show up for one of these episodes, that's going to be a big deal.
That's going to be an issue.
Yeah. Anywho, moving on to our next segment. So we have cleverly titled this Chocolate Pudding, which if this is your first viewing of the show, you will not get yet. But later, in retrospect, you'll be like, that was fun. That was a load of fun. Glad I was here for this. So we're going to do our top 3 favorite moments of every episode, our top 3 favorite chocolate puddings. This is this segment. Andy, you want to start with your number 3? Just go ahead and quick and rank them too.
Let's see. My number 3 would be when Mike, right after Mike speaks to Lucas on the radio and says, you know what? Will is willing to sacrifice himself for us. We should be willing to do the same. And he leaves the house. And Nancy's boyfriend, Steve, is like standing on top of the air conditioner with his leg half up the garage, trying to climb up into her window. Like, he just sort of steps back down, leans casually
cool
against it, like, yeah, no, nothing to see here. And Mike just shakes his head and rides his bike away. I don't know. Like, as much as they play up Steve to be kind of like the stereotypical douchebag, he does have some pretty cool moments in this first episode. Like, I'm smooth like a ninja, you know, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, and
he was so uncoordinated.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, he's the there are redeeming qualities to the character, and I just really like that scene. It made me giggle.
Right on. Steve, what is your number 3 chocolate pudding of the show? Episode.
Kind of piggybacking off Andy's, my number 3 is the awkward makeout sesh in the study session, just because that's such a good character moment for Steve and Nancy, because he's charming but also affable. He's kind of a goof, but lovable, but also pushy horny.
Super horny, right.
So he's an interesting character, and it also kind of establishes Nancy as just this, pure, girl that everyone had a crush on when they were little. The girl next door.
Yeah.
That's whole thing. And I really like their chemistry is really good.
And that actress just looks that part so much. The girl next door pretty have a crush on her.
Yeah.
Her name is Natalia Dyer.
Yeah. And that fucking Brazil song while they're making out is
that what it was?
the 80est thing
It's
ever.
Africa.
Yeah.
Toto.
Oh, it's
Africa.
Toto.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought it was.
Yeah.
Africa, my bad.
Which, if you're going to get it on with someone, put on some Toto.
2 white guys singing about Africa. That would ever great.
What about you, man? What was your number 3?
My number 3 was Hopper's intro. I loved every bit about that, and it encapsulates everything that's so meticulous and genius about the show, and the way that they wrote it to tell us everything we wanted to know about the character of Hopper. And the way it all unfolded was almost comedic and incredibly sad all at the same time. A little backstory for listeners of Streaming Things. I have a history of alcoholism and stuff, so I'm sober now for almost 6 years, but I got everything about it. Like waking up on the couch, clearly a little late, groggy, lighting a cigarette, taking a pill with the leftover beer, going outside because you want to smoke so bad, even though it's too cold to be outside in this garb. But he'd rather freeze and get the puffs and kind of like torture himself a little bit to wake up. His pants are half undone. He's got the beer gut. Like every bit of it would like rang so true. Brushing your teeth and then immediately smoking and ruining it. I know I've done that a million times. Like, what is the fucking point? And just that he's blowing smoke at himself in the mirror. Like, I loved every bit of it. Every scene, every shot spoke so much about who he was. And then the comedy part to me was the juxtaposition of the news anchor. It was so 80s, and everybody loves the weatherman, George. How is it out there, George? And still kind of like that, but not as cheesy on the news. And after all of that pain and anguish and shit we just saw, and he's like very Bruce Willis from Die Hard up to that point, and then we get to like the Christmas special news lady. I just thought it was genius and brilliant. So I love that. That was my number 3.
Pretty good.
Andy, what was your number 2? Chocolate pudding.
Let's see here. My number 2 is going to have to be Ice Cream with Benny.
Ice cream with Benny.
That's a good one.
Ben and Jerry. All right, never mind. Off the cuff didn't work. Whatever. Let's move on.
Yeah, no, it's just like you were saying before, that this is the first time that 11 has ever eaten French fries. This is the first time she's ever had ice cream. This is also the first time she's ever had a experience with an adult male that was positive.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And so she's
an adult period, most likely.
She like he just turns and says, smile looks good on you, and she has a little smirk for a second, and then immediately after, the fucking government lady shows up and everything goes to shit. But it's just like that tiny little quiet before the storm moment that was just, it didn't serve the story in any way other than to just humanize Benny immediately before his untimely demise, and it just made me choke up a little. Liked it.
Right on. All right. What about you, Stu? Number 2.
My number 2 is Hop's intro.
Okay.
That we talked before, like everything you said, but also into when he actually gets into the police station, you see his other deputies that are with him. And what's the line he says? Mornings are for coffee and contemplation.
Yeah.
Those are words to live by.
Yeah, absolutely. I try to do that.
What's the
Flo?
Secretary Flo?
Yeah. And Flo is such an 80s name.
Yeah.
Shut up, Flo. Flo.
What's Flo short for?
Flo.
Florence?
Flo Rida.
Florence?
I think Flo Rida.
Flo Rida.
Hello, this is Flo Rida. You were calling Hawkins Police Station.
Flo Rida speaking. Sup? Okay. My number 2 is the discovery of 11. That your favorite shot, that whole little section there. For whatever reason, even having seen it before, and I'm sure Andy would argue that it was like extremely obvious plot-wise what was about to happen. For some reason, not to me. I was just like, oh shit, it's raining outside and shit. Oh my God, it's the girl. And I just love that moment because there's that, you can tell there's not quite fear on her face because there's people for the first time that are her size. And who could be scared? I'm a little creeped out by Dustin, but not scared. Like he's, he's adorable creepy.
Adorable creepy.
And just the union there. And I just loved in the way it was shot. And the fact that it managed to surprise me somehow a little bit was just beautiful. It's a beautiful moment. And then I got to remember everything that's about to follow. And I got all this nostalgic waves. It was like meta nostalgia because I'm so nostalgic for this show about nostalgia.
All right.
I was like, whoa, that's too many layers. Andy, what was your number one chocolate pudding?
My number one chocolate pudding would have to be when Joyce and Jonathan are looking through his pictures and he's making the have you seen me sign. And they're talking is when he starts to tear up a little bit saying that he should have been there for him. It's just this really great character moment between the two, the mother and son, and Joyce like has these little innocuous statements throughout it that foreshadow plot that comes later in the series. So I'm not going to say specifically what it is, but and immediately after that you have the horrific and it's really the same scene. You have the horrific phone call where she can hear breathing and monster noises and stuff, and they're both frantic. Like, was that Will? What'd he say? And I could hear him breathing, and it was.
That was a bullseye Winona Ryder.
Oh God, so good. But that is those characters' first. Their first experience in this story where it's like, okay, there's something more to this than just my kid went missing. There's something nefarious going on. And it's good stuff.
Okay, awesome. What about you there, Steve?
Listen to everybody talk. It just proves just how good this show is because there's so many good moments.
Absolutely.
But my number one is the Demogorgon attack in the beginning.
In the very beginning? Okay.
I really love the way they film. It goes from a casual ride home with friends racing for X-Men comics to there's a thing in the road, and he swerves off the road, and a little bit about me. I'm horrified of aliens. That's like my irrational fear. And the silhouette of the Demogorgon in the beginning, that when he's in the middle of the road, and then also when he's following Will through the house, reminds me of Signs. Do you remember Signs?
Yeah.
The movie where you would see the aliens like on the roof, and that movie is the most horrifying movie in the world to me.
Wow.
Which I know is a ridiculous thing to say.
What a twist that
What
is
a twist,
here.
yes. So yet seeing that. The silhouette of the Demogorgon and the noises and just being a kid and trying to run away from something, that's a very primal feeling. And I think they captured that so well. And the scene kind of ends sort of anticlimactically because he's in the shed, he's got the gun out, and you expect the door to fly open or something.
Right.
But then just looms over him, and then you close up of the light, it gets brighter, and then there's nothing in the room.
That's another good example of the sound design too, because it just cuts out. There's no noise whatsoever, and there's no sign of any struggle or anything.
Exactly.
Which the first time I saw, I was like, what the fuck? And there's a great element of like old mystery novels to this too, not just horror. They play a lot of 80s things, but I don't think anybody does it as well anymore that the Duffer Brothers brought back, of just like complete, because it's hard to do. There's a lot more tropes, a lot of the more stories have been told. It's been 30, 40 years, right? And just, I was so shocked. Like, what do you mean he disappeared? What's going on? And the phone, you know what I mean? Like, even watching it the second time, I don't quite recall all the layers. And I'm intrigued again, which is crazy. Like, high level intrigued. My number one moment was Benny's death.
Poor Benny.
They just sold me. I like that guy so damn much on his morality, and he's like, I made her a burger, dude. Like, he's going to take it away. He's not really. He's like,
give it
he's
back.
just trying to get her to talk. He's not going to take that girl's burger, dude. Like, he's too nice. That's Benny, bro. But he's like, he's got discipline too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, don't steal from me. I'm not going to allow this, you little bald kid. Even though you're clearly in a hospital gown, and I'm not going to act shocked when I turn you around. First, you know what I mean? Like, hospital gowns are way more noticeable from the back.
Yes.
So I would have think he'd have been nicer from the get. But anyway, I'll cut Benny a little slack for that one. He was in a rush. It was lunch rush. But I was just, I think the kill, it wasn't the first death, But I think the shot at the beginning, we didn't know what we were watching yet. We didn't care about anything quite yet. I'm just thinking this is really well shot. Oh, blinky lights. Uh-oh. And it was a supernatural death. So it affects me less sometimes when it's a supernatural death.
Sure.
But when the lady pulls out the silenced pistol and goes all Tarantino on Benny's ass, I just love that. Like that, the first time I saw that, I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it was very PG-13 up to that point.
He's a real jacked dude.
Yeah.
Benny's a big, he's a
just
brick
little
shit
lady.
house. And this social worker, she's a social worker.
Right.
She's supposed to be a woman that comes and takes care of children.
Yeah.
And she blows them away with a pistol.
Caught me totally off guard because I was so set up for that to be the sad emotional climax of the episode, was that she gets taken into social work and has to like bust out of the system that way. Yeah. And then I'm like,
be a very different show.
I know where this is going. They're going to adopt a psychic girl and have to raise her, you know?
No, not another psychic girl. We got 6 of them already.
And then it's like
11 meet 10 9.
Pew, pew. I'm like, oh, damn. So that was for shock value and execution. Ooh, see what I did there? Nice. My own knife. Gave myself a nice. Wow.
Because Benny was
It's
executed.
Benny's death. Any runners up?
Runners up.
We got. You don't have to think of one. If you don't have one, you don't have one. You liars.
I mean, the radio scene.
Radio scene.
Yeah,
Okay.
that almost made my top 3. Just, again, a character moment that has nothing to do with plot-wise
Right.
anything. It foreshadows plot elements later in the series, which is brilliantly done. But, it's just the kids like, Australia? Like, hello, this is Mike Wheeler.
They had some shockingly good Australian
I know.
accents. I mean, they're actors.
AV Club.
Almost unrealistic for real Hawkins, Indiana kids.
Right.
You know, I guess was that a Crocodile Dundee Easter egg? Is that an Eggo?
Could have been.
I'm gonna throw it in here under the next segment. Just real
Dustin's
quick.
like, that's not a knife.
This is a radio.
Also, what's Mike's little sister's name?
Mike's the little boy, the little girl.
The little girl. Because
It's just a little girl.
there's that like one shot of her at the dinner table where she's just like
That was in my runners up as well.
she looks so
It looks
worried,
like
but
she's chugging alcohol.
She's chugging alcohol like, oh, the family's at it
Yeah,
again.
I think that was the intention, which I never noticed the first time, of
I
just
didn't
her
either.
like being overwhelmed by her neurotic family. Like, Jesus Christ.
You know that
Chugging
was
my-
like a happy accident. Like they're filming that girl and she just happens to be like, what's going on?
Well, they were like, drink your juice now, and she just starts like going ham like it's
There's
liquor.
cameras
and really-
everywhere.
It was awesome. That was definitely one of my little girl drinking was one of my runners up. And then Dustin freaking out over the die. And it just,
He's
I
got his
loved
hands in
how
his-
seriously they took the game, where they weren't sure yet who had won and if Will was safe and what the Demogorgon, based on the rules of Dungeons and Dragons. And it's this very suspenseful, like, where's the die? What is it? And then Dustin's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like, it has actual bearing on his life, which I just loved as a nerd, and with a TV show, we're sitting here talking for hours and hours on end about a TV show. We're clearly identified with something like that. So I just love that. I know we're running way over on what we anticipated, which I actually love. But I just thought up real quick, again, off the cuff, new segment, best performance from everybody real quick. Andy, you first.
Let's see. Best performance. I would have to give that one to Benny.
Benny, who is the one actor whose name I did not look up. Way to go, Andy.
Yeah, no, just everything
Benny
about
Hammond.
him. He undercuts any expectation you have for a big burly diner man, and he's, like you guys said, the heart of gold. I thought I came up with that first.
We are all on the same wavelength. That's cool.
Yeah, no, just Benny's a one-off character, you know what I mean? But
Literally,
he's-
offed him.
Right, yeah.
One.
Hashtag justice for Benny.
Hashtag justice for
Ooh,
Benny.
allusion to later. I see what you did there.
Yeah, Benny. For
Okay,
sure.
Benny.
MVP.
Stu, what about you?
I'm going to go with Hopper.
Hopper. Okay,
Yeah.
that is Dave Harbour.
Dave Harbour.
Or David to you guys because you're not as good of friends with him.
Says you.
Anything you want to highlight real quick, or just drop the name?
I mean, really, just he has a lot of ranges in this episode.
He's
And
definitely the most likable. And would you say he's the clear protagonist at this point?
No, I'd say that Mike is.
Mike? Okay.
Yeah.
They do an interesting thing with points of view in the show, and I feel like
Yeah,
if
they
you could
do.
make a case for multiple protags.
Absolutely.
There was I read an article last year when this came out where if you watch the show, when you watch the kids movie, it's like a Stephen King movie. When you watch the teenagers, Nancy and Steve, it's a John Hughes movie. And when you watch the adults, it's a John Carpenter movie. I might have gotten some of them.
No, I think that makes perfect
But there's
sense.
like three different type of director stories happening all at the same time, and I always thought that was a really good point.
solid.
I wish I could remember who wrote that because it was genius.
It doesn't matter. You can just steal it.
That was my idea.
We'll edit that out and just say you came up with that. It's perfect. Google it. I think the best performance for me is Jonathan Byers, Charlie Heaton.
Yeah.
Watching it this time around, especially he's firing pistols with Winona Ryder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some of these influences she was actually in. You know what I mean? Like she's been around the block. She's been stealing shit for a long time. And he's trying to keep up with her, and he's doing it. You know what I mean? It's everything about his emotions, and he's got some layers, like I said, where he's got that guilt and the grief, and the need to protect his mother, and he's playing it all, and I'm buying into every bit of it. And he's a younger actor, especially that scene with the phone call. It could have easily been annoying and corny.
Yeah.
Like who was it? Was it Will? Shut up.
His voice is breaking and shit, dude.
I bought into it. I'm like, who was it? Was it Will?
And there's rage in his voice when he's like, who is this?
Yeah. And normally it's the kind of thing you'd make fun of. Like, there's no dial tone, bro. Who you screaming at? Shut up. But I was with him. Like, you get that dude. Like star 69 his ass. Ooh, was that a thing? What if they star 69 the upside down? What would happen?
Sorry, Mom. Really bad service.
That's a question for philosophers right there. Okay, our final segment we have titled Easter Eggos, which again will not make sense yet. We should have thought this through. But later it will. In retrospect, you'll be like, wow, it's fucking amazing. Streaming thing.
You're going to think we're so smart.
They are. So we find there's numerous Easter eggs. This show is famous for the level of nostalgia and homage that it pays to many 80s intellectual properties. Some would call it theft, which is a good argument that we could make later. And I want to say that this show is timed so perfectly for the nostalgia fetish, that's going on right now. They're remaking all of these intellectual properties from when we were kids, like, Power Rangers and everything that you can think of almost. It's almost annoying. And this show just plopped right in the cut. Nobody, knew what was coming, that it was going to do that and better than anything else could possibly, because it's still its own thing. Right. Anyway, so we just point out random things that we noticed allusions to. A couple things I didn't notice or read about, I promise, which are rare. That he says, what does he say? Damn it. He says something about it when they're playing the D&D game. Yeah. Like you come around the corner and it is there. And there's an emphasis on it that, because it just came out in theaters in 2017, I picked up on I wouldn't have before. Like that was an overemphasis. I feel like he was alluding to the monster it there. And then they bring it up. There's another clowns reference when they're in the what's it called? Bunker, not a bunker.
Byers Castle.
Byers.
Yeah,
Castle
the
Byers.
castle, but it's a fort. There it is. When they're in the fort, she's like, "What about the clowns?" And I think that was another illusion.
What about the clowns?
What about the clowns? Yeah. Okay. Anything you wrote down for Easter Eggos there, Stu?
My favorite Easter egg in the whole show is the giant thing poster.
Okay.
In this episode, it's in the basement of Mike's house, but I'm pretty sure that poster is
It's a moving poster?
everywhere in the show. It appears
clever.
in multiple houses. But the Thing's my favorite horror film of all time, so I love that Easter egg.
Is the thing? I guess it's been a while since I've seen it. Is that the monster that kind of pops up in itself in the movie itself in the IP? So is there any actual layered reference by the poster being?
Oh no, I think it's just this is
showing the ubiquity of it in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Thanks, Stu.
I didn't know where you're going with that. The Thing is the thing.
I think it's just a thing poster. So
with the Thing, you don't know who it is, so you don't know where it is. You know what I mean?
Ooh, thanks, bro. High five. We're high fiving. Nailed it. Okay, Andy, Easter egg from you, bro.
Easter egg from me and Easter Eggo. The encountering the monster in the shed is a straight up ET reference.
Okay, true that.
Oh, it is.
Well, if there'd have been some Reese Pieces in the background, I would have sucked the Duffers' dicks.
Yeah. So Will encounters the monster in the road. He runs home. He tries to call 911, and then he runs to the shed to get his gun. And super nod to the first time that a kid whose name I'm not going to remember meets E.T.
Okay.
Elliot.
Elliot, thank you.
There you go.
Elliot.
I'm going to just call out a really broad one. Goonies, Stand By Me, E.T. Because the relationship between the kids themselves are all very Goonies, but it's also very Stand By Me. And in fact, I read that the Duffer Brothers made the kids who, when they were rehearsing and reading sides, they read sides from Stand By Me. That's how much he wanted to encapsulate the tone of their relationship when he was casting them. But I want to go with E.T. with a star as far as the bikes and like kids on bikes trope that Spielberg invented, I think is E.T. more than anything else. But I know I'm double dipping here, but it's relevant to the Goonies. I thought this time around, first of all, the walkie-talkies, kids walkie-talkies is also a trope. I think I'm going to give that one to the Goonies. Or am I wrong? No walkie-talkie in the Goonies? The Asian kid definitely had a walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
But I thought there was a strong allusion to the Truffle Shuffle. When the bullies make Dustin do the bone thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't notice that last time. Do it. Do the thing.
Do the thing, freak show.
Yeah, you're right. I felt like that was a Truffle Shuffle reference.
That's good.
It reminds me of Family Guy when he goes, childhood obesity. But, okay, another one from Stu? I forgot who it's on.
I'll take it. I'll take it. There's a lot of Hobbit references.
There's two.
The kids mention Mirkwood. They call the street that Will gets lost on Mirkwood, even though that's not the actual name of the street.
Right.
And then the secret password to get into Will's fort is Radagast.
Right, which I thought was from the Smurfs.
That's Gargamel.
Right.
Gargamel.
Very
Radagast
similar.
the Brown in The Hobbit. He's the one who rides the bobsled with all the rabbits and has the bird shit on his shoulder. It
is that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's the shit.
Gandalf.
That's how he talks. That's his only line is Okay. You ruined my jokes, Stu, because I was going to say it was Lord of the Rings, and you guys were going to know immediately what I was going to say. Where I was getting at with that. Way to go.
That's why I'm here.
That would have been clever.
Andy, another chocolate pudding from you. Or wait, shit, Eggo.
Another Easter Eggo. This one I had read about before, but when Joyce goes to the police department to file a missing persons report, it is a recreation of the shot from Jaws after the first attack has happened, and they're filing an incident report. Where it zooms in really close on the typewriter and you see missing and it's real loud hitting. It's
I missed that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's a Jaws reference.
I don't know how we got this far without talking about it. But here we're going to go now.
Ooh.
It's cut in later, but a huge Easter egg is the font and the opening score itself. The opening score is very much John Carpenter-y with the heavy synth. I believe that was...
It's a killer theme.
Kyle Dixon and Michael Stein, I think, are the composers there. I'm not sure. But the logo I'm noticing this time around is just genius. The graphic design and the way it all flows together it's timed with the score so perfectly. It's just... Now, I remember I knew I loved it, but just breaking it apart this time. Because it's the kind of opening sequence that you don't skip. Even when you're binging a show, sometimes you'll skip the intro. Yeah. I typically don't because I take that moment to like resituate myself for a good binge or whatever. But this is the kind that like pumps you the fuck up.
It sets the mood for the show.
You're like, I need this, you know? Like,
with that, Stranger Things without the intro is not Stranger Things.
It's nothing. It's just a thing.
It's
the thing. So that font is called ITC Bangwiat. That's what I'm going to go with. Bangwiat.
Bugatti.
I'm going to say Bangwiat or Bangweet. You Google it and let me know what you think. You can email streamingthingspod@gmail.com with your... I don't know how you're going to write me how you pronounce it. Put a pronunciation key in there. Yes. So the font, it comes from countless Stephen King novels. It was on a Smith's album cover, the Strange Ways album, apparently. And Ed Bangwiat is the guy who invented it. And he's an 89-year-old graphic artist legend who did the logos for Ford, the New York Times, Playboy, Esquire, Sports Illustrated, and many, many others, which I found interesting and just learned today.
He's 89 today?
That I don't know, but he definitely did all of those things, and I didn't know that.
And he's 89.
At one point, he was 89.
Yes.
Confirmed.
I just hurt my toe. Sorry, that was funny, Steve. Okay, I'll throw in an Eggo. The monster, the Demogorgon, is an Alien reference, with the sound design, the clicking, and the kind of the way that the lighting is whenever the monster's shown. Direct Alien reference.
I mean, that shot of him kind of standing up behind Will in the shed, that is a complete Alien
like
shot.
If there was some more drool, it'd be downright theft.
A shaky mouth with drool.
With like a grill. You ever notice Alien kind of has a grill?
Yes.
Like, what's up?
Another Alien reference is that the Demogorgon figure is supposed to be a mix of one of the what are they called? Necromorphs? The alien?
Xenomorphs.
Necromorphs
Necromorphs are from Dead Space.
Nice.
And it's supposed to be a mix of that and Predator.
Yes.
That makes sense now that you say that.
With the way the jaws open, it's more predatory, right?
No, I'm talking about the figure.
Oh, for the D&D game.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, right on.
That makes sense.
That's what I read anyway.
No, you made it up, bro.
No,
That's all you. Okay. 11, obviously a Firestarter Carrie reference.
Yeah.
And I remember when the show first came out, Stephen King had tweeted that it was just the greatest hits of all his work and that he loved it. He wasn't a jab, you know. And now I see, you know, more so what he meant. Like I'd done some noticing the first time I viewed it, but really looking into it, like there's so many elements from various Stephen King specifically.
Oh yeah.
But I think she's very Firestartery, but also very like prepubescent Carrie.
Prepubescent Carrie.
Yeah, like there's no, you know what I'm talking about. There's none of that.
Yeah.
That's coming later.
Yeah.
I can assume. That's awkward. Anywho, one more from you, Stu. Keeping you on your toes.
You guys are like way better at this than I am, so I just wrote, they mentioned X-Men.
That is neat. True.
Yeah, I actually wrote that down too. X-Men 134. I wonder if there's like anything that happens in it that is.
Ooh, deep dive for next episode. We're going to come back at you with that. Andy, another Eggo from you.
I think I'm all out of Eggos, man.
Okay, I just jotted down. I kind of cheat because I think people's definition online of what an Easter egg is broader than mine, and thus a little easier to find. Like any allusion whatsoever.
Sure.
So I put Fleetwood Mac in there, even though that was just soundtrack.
Word.
Was
But
there
I
a
thought
Fleetwood Mac song in there?
Isn't that Fleetwood Mac? It'd be super embarrassing if it's not.
Which song?
The White Rabbit.
No, that's not Fleetwood Mac.
Fuck.
I can't.
So embarrassing.
I can't place the name of the band, but that's not Fleetwood Mac.
It's in the.
I know what song you're talking about.
That's not Stevie Nicks.
I'm gonna look it up now.
That's so embarrassing. I get the 80s chicks mixed up a lot. 70s chicks.
They're
Is that
all
not even
Stevie.
80s? Is that just, should I just shut up? I don't think it is.
Jefferson Airplane.
Fuck! Is it not even Starship? So it's definitely not 80s then.
Song by Jefferson Airplane.
So here's an Easter eggo of a song that's not who I said it was, and it's not written in the 80s. That's great.
But it's in a lot of
That's great.
surreal movies, though, that
Well,
song.
I think it was more symbolic as far as following the White Rabbit. So I loved it for that. But I thought it had basically it's a single whammy, and I thought it was a triple whammy.
Yeah.
Really sorry for that, guys. Super embarrassing, but let's leave it in. Fuck it. Toto, I put that in there.
Toto.
Africa.
I said Brazil.
Yeah, we're great. We're
I
doing
love
great.
that song, but I hate that I love that song.
Down the plains down in Brazil. Doesn't even make sense, Andy. You're dumber than me. I threw a Poltergeist. That's an obvious one. The tickets.
Yep.
And then actually, I think there's some more things from that come back later.
Actually, the girl in Poltergeist shares a lot of similarities to Will. What happens to her and
You
him?
calling Will girly?
I mean, it's his eyes.
That's true. It's already very poltergeisty. You're right. Okay. I don't remember, but I hope we get to see some snow on some TV. You know what I'm saying? The white noise.
I think we do.
That would
pretty
be
sure
that's very. Don't go towards the light. Did they say that at any point? I think
that woman just walks in. That's her.
She just walks through the background.
What
That'd be great. I threw in a really far stretch, the flashlighties in the trees. And I know that no 80s property has, you know what I mean, like a trademark on flashlights in trees. But I felt like it was very Spielbergian the way.
Yeah, that's an ET shot.
Yes. I wrote ET, parenthetical, question mark. And I'm glad Steve confirmed it.
If
I
only
am
they
genius.
had a close up of Harper's keys as he's walking around, then it would be
Right,
like
yeah.
100%
Also, the
ET.
close up on the bike as when Will throws the bike down, that was super 80s as well. It was a very Spielberg thing to do.
I think didn't Spielberg kind of invent the style of filmmaking where if you have a lot of child actors, you film most of the scenes at their eye level, even if
really?
there's adults, you're looking up at adults. I'm
that's
pretty
cool.
sure that's a Spielbergian thing that he kind of made popular, and this show does that as well. Because I mean, obviously the characters are mostly children.
Right.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I mean, Mike is at least 9. He can't be more than 40.
I read an article the other day just one more little tidbit for everybody that I'm sure you guys read. It kind of went viral that Finn Wolfhard, obviously having recently been in the movie It, which is rated R, kept dropping F-bombs while they were filming season 2. Did you read that or see that? Yeah, so it was a problem, like a cutesy problem that the Duffer Brothers had, is that because they cussed like hardcore, like it's a rated R Stranger Things, the movie It, the remake. And so when he came back to film more Stranger Things pickups and stuff, he was just like,
That's the Mike. He plays Mike, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So he's just like, this is fucked up. And they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. They're like,
Go blow your dad, you mullet wearing bitch.
yeah. Like, damn, bud. Which I just thought was super funny and endeared him to me even more. So
His character in It is such a far cry from his character in Stranger Things.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
he's such a mousy character in this show.
he's like a mixture of Dustin, and it's some
He's like a
asshole from a
pushy,
different
horny
80s movie.
Dustin.
Yeah, he's like Steve and Dustin. Yeah. Good thing this isn't a dick measuring contest.
Derry used to be a beaver trapping colony. Still is, am I right, boys? The best line of It.
Do we have anything else to wrap up this episode? That was a lot. That was great.
This is a great first episode for a series.
Yes, it was an incredible pilot. I agree. Is it counted as a pilot on Netflix when you got the rest? We'll call it a pilot.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
It's our show.
The Vanishing of Will Byers. And I would go to say, in a meta way, first episode of Streaming Things. Streaming Things. Also excellent. Amazing pilot, fellas. We did a good job. So if you would like to write in to tell us what a good job we did or didn't, you can write in at streamingthingspod@gmail.com. That is streamingthingspod@gmail.com. And we would love to hear your feedback and go ahead and binge just like Netflix on this very next episode. My name is Chris.
I'm Andy.
I'm Steve /Stu.
We out.
Andy has walked across the room and grabbed his phone. He has rejoined us at the table.
Sounds like the golf commentator.
You sound dead on.
He is vigorously typing on his keypad with his thumbs.
He has-
and it is showing Chris the synopsis for episode 1 of Stranger Things.
That sounded masturbatory, not golf clappy.
He is whipping out his...
Oh, he's coming already.
We're going to need 2 towels.